Let's begin with a question that seems simple, but has a terrifying answer. What does it take to truly, honestly survive? Not on a weekend camping trip, but in the absolute belly of catastrophe, when the world isn't just inconvenient, but actively, maliciously trying to erase you? To find that answer, we don't look to the tidy survival manuals. We look to the pages of history that most people want to skip. We look to the 30 Years' War, a conflict in 17th century Europe so devastating it killed nearly half the population in some regions through battle, famine, and plague. It was an era where chivalry died and raw, ugly, brilliant pragmatism was born. Soldiers and peasants invented survival tricks so effective and so horrifying that they became forbidden knowledge. Not illegal, but socially buried, because they remind us of what we are capable of. Today, we're uncovering 3 of those tricks. This isn't a fun DIY, this is a journey to the edge. First, we must set the stage. Imagine a landscape picked clean. Armies like locusts have marched back and forth for decades. Farms are ash, animals are long eaten. The social contract is a memory. In this environment, the first forbidden trick wasn't about finding food. It was about simulating it. It was called Parchment Soup, or book broth. Here's how it worked. When there was absolutely nothing to eat, people would take parchment, old legal documents, books, leather bindings, and boil them. Now, you can't digest parchment or leather, but the prolonged boiling would leach out the gelatin and traces of fat from the animal skins used to make them. The result was a thin, vaguely nutritious broth. The inedible solid matter would be fished out. The key was the sound and smell of cooking. It maintained the ritual, the illusion of a meal. It kept hope alive in a starving household for one more day. It was a food facade. The modern lesson isn't about boiling your shoes. It's about understanding the profound psychological power of routine and ritual in sustaining the human spirit. In a prolonged crisis, the act of making dinner, even if the meal is pitiful, maintains a thread of normalcy, a thread of control. It's a forbidden trick because it exposes how thin the line is between civilization and raw need, and how much of our survival is mental theater. Alright, a riddle to anchor this grim theme. I am not nourishment, but I sustain. I am not hope, but I manufacture it. I am found in the boiling of the inedible and the sharing of the empty pot. What am I? The answer is the illusion we just discussed. Hold on to that. The second trick moves from illusion to ruthless botany. It's called strategic gleaning, or the law of the empty field. Normally, after a harvest, peasants were allowed to glean, to collect the leftover scraps in a field. In total famine, this concept was weaponized. Survivors wouldn't wait for a harvest because there wouldn't be one. They would sneak into fields before the crop was ripe under cover of darkness to strip green, unripe grain or roots. This was a capital offense. It was stealing the future to live another day. But the advanced, forbidden level of this was knowing what to glean that nobody else valued. Soldiers, particularly mercenaries who lived on the move, became experts in famine flora. They knew that the inner bark of the pine tree, the phloem, could be pounded into a bitter, fibrous flour. They knew which lichens could be soaked to leach out toxins. They knew that a field of seemingly dead grass might still hide a cache of frost-sweetened parsnips, untouched because they were invisible from the surface. This knowledge was forbidden not by law, but by scarcity of information. Knowing which tree bark could feed you and which would kill you was power you didn't share with rivals. The modern application is botanical intelligence. Do you know 3 edible plants in your region that others would overlook? Not the obvious berries, but the weeds, the inner barks, the roots. That specific hyperlocal knowledge is a form of forbidden power today, because almost no one has it. Riddle answer time. The answer is the illusion of sustenance, perfectly embodied by the Parchment Soup. It's the trick that feeds the mind to keep the body searching. The third and most profound trick was a psychological one. The priority of need mindset. Social norms and taboos are the first casualties. The forbidden survival skill was the ability to mentally reclassify the unthinkable into the necessary. This isn't about morality, it's about the documented cognitive shift survivors described. Everything became a potential resource. A fallen enemy's wool coat wasn't a trophy, it was crucial insulation. Bone became tool, not waste. This extreme utilitarianism was a mental survival mechanism. It allowed soldiers and peasants to bypass the horror and engage with their environment purely in terms of caloric and material input-output. The forbidden part is that we don't like to admit we have this switch inside us. We shy away from stories where grandmothers boiled leather belts because it forces us to confront the fact that under sufficient pressure, sentimentality evaporates, and a cold, brilliant efficiency can take its place. For the modern prepper, the lesson is about mental conditioning. Can you look at your comfortable living room and not just see a room but see a collection of potential resources? The bookshelves as potential fuel or insulation, the curtains as potential bandages or shelter? It's not about being destructive. It's about exercising a mental muscle of absolute utility that most people have let atrophy. It is, in its own way, a forbidden thought experiment. Understanding these tricks from history's darkest hour isn't about preparing you to boil parchment. It's about preparing your mind to understand the true spectrum of survival. It stretches from comfortable camping all the way to the grim, brilliant pragmatism of the empty field. By looking at these forbidden strategies, you inoculate yourself against shock. You understand that survival, at its absolute limit, is not about gear, but about the unwavering will to find use in the useless, hope in the hopeless, and to maintain, against all odds, the flicker of human ingenuity in the deepest dark. That knowledge, itself, is a kind of forbidden power. Use it wisely.